Okay, great. Good evening. I don't think so. I'm not on. Good evening. No.
Test, test. That works.
Test, test. Am I good? Okay, great. Good evening, everybody. For those of you who have just joined us after closed session, welcome to the hybrid regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. I am Lisa Pelosi, Board President, and I would like to introduce my fellow trustees, Laura Simon, Sean Mora, Jeannie Kerr, and G. Marie Wolf. I would also like to introduce our district staff, Superintendent Ruben Aurelio, Assistant Superintendent Mr. Chris Heller, Chief Business Official Dr. Kay Vang, Director of Educational Services Ms. Veronica Miranda, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent and Governing Board Ms. Erica Madrigal, Executive Assistant to the Assistant Superintendent Ms. Melissa Hanson, and our Director of Technology Mr. Derek Machado. Also joining us this evening are additional site administrators, St. Helena High School Principal Mr. Benjamin Cinto, RLS Middle School Principal Mr. Andrew Ryan, St. Helena Elementary School Dr. Carmen Emery, and St. Helena Primary School Mrs. Rebecca Rocha. We are delighted that you are viewing in person on Zoom, on television channel 27, or our YouTube channel. A copy of this board meeting video will also be available on our website at www.stheleniaunified.org. In connection with items 4A, 4C, and 4D, the board received information and provided staff with direction. In connection with items 4E, the board participated in a discussion and will provide staff with direction. In connection with items 4B, the board received information from staff on the stipulated school expulsion of student number 2638. Is there a motion to approve the stipulated school expulsion of student number 2638?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr? Aye. Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, with that, would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, item 6A is public comments at our meetings here, and these are for items not on the agenda. There is a 3-minute limit on public comments. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on anything that is not on the agenda this evening? If so, please come up to the podium.
Hi, I'm Christina Julian Dwyer, and I have 2 kids in the district, 2 fourth graders at the elementary school, and I wanted to just pose a couple things. For one, I wanted to share a success story of the Fentanyl Awareness Community event that happened at the Cameo 2 weeks ago. We had a full house. It was a partnership with the City of St. Helena as well as the Up Valley Family Center, and the community came out. We had parents in the audience. We also had students in the audience who asked really informed questions and got life-saving information. I also wanted to bring up a question that came up at that event, as well as the event, the parent event that we did with the district. I work with Song for Charlie as a volunteer, which is a fentanyl awareness nonprofit. And I did a parent night with the district. I was grateful for that opportunity. And there was also a common question that came up at the RLS parent group where I had done a presentation right before the Cameo event. And that question was, everybody was very receptive and enjoyed the information that was shared, found it very critical and life-saving. And the question that was asked in all those scenarios was, when will this information be presented to students? That was the overwhelming question. Parents were not shying away from it. They weren't wanting to shelter the students. They wanted to know, when will they get that information? And this information, the organization Song for Charlie has presented at schools, high schools and middle schools across the state, as close as Sonoma Valley, all the middle schools and high schools, and Napa Unified middle schools. And I would just close with a comment that was made by the Napa County Regional Medical Director, who presides over Napa County, Yolo, and Solano. And I'm going to paraphrase here, but you can read the article in the Press Democrat. And what she said was that the national story that was presented, the national perspective in the film that was screened at the Cameo, what she said was that those stories shared in the film and those statistics are not unique on the national level, or to say is these are the same things that we are seeing in Northern California, and that we are not immune to what's happening in the North Bay. And she specifically said, and we are not immune to what was shown in the film in Napa County. That she said it's very personal, it's very urgent, and it's right now, happening right now here. And so that is what I wanted to kind of put out there, is that these free resources are available. I'm a bereaved family member. I've presented to 7,000 students in the last couple months, and I've made these resources available to the district. I'm happy to present and do student assemblies and talk about that. And so I just wanted to kind of open that up, that parents in the community seem to be asking this question. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else present who would like to publicly comment on an item not on the agenda? And I know we have a Zoom comment as well, so.
Anna?
Oh, thank you. Is it my turn to talk?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. This is Anna Shuto. I am zooming in. Thank you so much for allowing this option. It is so convenient for busy parents. So first, thank you so much for that. I am calling in to also do a comment like Christina about the fentanyl event recently that we did together. It was an amazing partnership. It was something that I had seen the work that Christina did after I'd heard the devastating story that she had with losing her niece. I had gone to Calistoga and saw how the whole community in a different way showed up for that event to learn together. And I really wanted that for St. Helena. I knew that it was something that if we could get our arms around and educate more parents and students and people in the community, that we could save lives. And it was such an important event, and our dream of filling the Cameo almost came true. So many people showed up. We had really good partners with the Up Valley Family Center and the Napa County, the Opioid Coalition, and the youth mentoring through Upper Valley, and the city got involved. We had our, the city ended up paying for that space at Cameo. We had firefighters who showed up, our city manager showed up, and I so had wanted the school district to be a part of that collaboration, and you were early on. And then it got tricky, I think, just because you already do your own events, which I'm so appreciative of. And I had shown up late, unfortunately, but still showed up to the one that Christina did. And I saw there that really, I think there were 5 or so parents there in the audience. And I know after doing this experience with Christina that we can do so much more when we do work together, like we did with this event. And I really just want to make sure moving forward that we are able to collaborate in new ways, and also echo what Christina said about the importance of bringing this to our students. Parents said the same thing to me. We had parents in the audience. I brought my son, and when I talked to him after, I said, did you learn anything new? And his first comment was like, no, we've talked about it. I've heard about it. And then he said something really important, which was, oh, actually, I thought this was just the bad drugs. This wasn't just the medication. This wasn't just getting a pill from a friend, which is exactly what we're worried about, and exactly where I know even in my own life, I'm hearing more and more stories of friends losing family members to these accidental overdoses, really poisoning. So I just hope that we can continue to work together and do more events where more of us are learning this information, and especially our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to publicly comment on an item? Please.
Hello, I'm Remy Bauer. I am a senior at the high school. I'm part of the band. And back, I'm pretty sure it was January, I came to the Equity and Inclusion meeting with the Gender and Sexuality Alliance Club. And we talked about the issues of bullying and discrimination that we faced. And it was a very important and impactful meeting. We talked about the statistics, both with LGBTQ plus people and non-LGBTQ plus people, with the issue of bullying. And I believe what came out of that conversation was very positive. I know of the members of the district and community that were there, it made a huge positive impact on them. And I just wanted to bring it up at the board meeting to make everyone aware that the issue of bullying is something that needs to be taken more seriously than it is already. And I hope in the upcoming years that there is more improvement of action that is actually taken against it.
Okay. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to publicly comment on items not on the agenda? Okay. All right. Thank you. Always appreciate the feedback and the comments, so thank you so much. So with that, we're going to now move on to the musical presentation of the evening. And Ms. Fulmer, would you like to come forward and talk about your fabulous students?
Hello, good evening. My name is Annalicia Fulmer. I'm the Director of Bands and Instrumental Music here for St. Helena Unified School District. I have the esteemed pleasure of teaching the band and guitar programs at both RLS and St. Helena High School. I want to just give a big shout out to the music program that participated in the Music in the Parks Festival this last Saturday at American Canyon High School and Discovery Kingdom. Big shout out to the RLS 7th and 8th grade band who took their first place with a superior rating and best overall concert band. That was out of 8 middle school bands. They slayed. And then the St. Helena High School concert band also took a first place with superior rating. And this band behind me, the St. Helena High School Jazz Band, also took first place with an excellent rating and best overall jazz band for the festival. So I would have brought the trophies, but there are too many to carry. So, and a little plug for our spring concert that's coming up in 2 weeks, Thursday, May 23rd at 6 p.m. over in the PAC. It's going to feature all the performing ensembles, including the elusive 7th period guitar class from the high school. We do have a few surprises in there too. It's a really fun program that we have set, and it includes a big senior send-off. Some of these seniors we're going to graduate. 17 of them have been with me since 6th grade, since when I first got here. So real quick, if you're a senior who's been with me since 6th grade, raise your hand. Yeah, it'll be one of those evenings. So, but I invite you all to attend. It'll be fun, and we'd love to see you in the audience. So tonight we're going to be presenting a piece that we took to festival last weekend. It's going to feature a few solos, including Brian on alto, Alexis on trumpet, and Julieta on trombone. That's It. Literally, that's what the title's called. That's It. Oh, and shout out to our 7th grade drummer, Gavin, who saved our butt this whole year. He got
was fantastic. It'd be great if you could just hang out all night, actually. It'd be background music. Thank you. Thanks so much. Congratulations on all the awards and all that great stuff. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no kidding. Great job. Great job. There's a lot of you guys. Wow. Congratulations. Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations. Well done. Congratulations. Hey, way to go. Way to represent on the drums. Thank you so much for coming. I know it's a lot, that was a lot of effort to get set up and perform, but we really appreciate it. Thank you. Absolutely. Way to go, seniors, right? Woo. We're going to take a quick, 5-7 minute break, allow these guys to break down and clear out, and then we'll resume. So if you need to. No. There we go. And I have a loud, booming voice, so if you can't hear me. Okay. All right, everybody, thank you for your patience. We're going to now move on to 7B, which is the introduction of our new Director of Facilities and Operation. Mr. Heller, please.
All right, good evening. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Mike Flores, who will be joining our leadership team after spending the past 2 years working with the Napa County Office of Education in a similar role. Mike's background includes extensive experience with fire alarm and security systems in addition to supervisor duties over maintenance and operations. He's a graduate of California State University at Sacramento with a degree in anthropology. Mr. Cinto has the same degree. Pique his interest. His references spoke highly of his calm demeanor, his high expectations, and ability to unite and build effective working teams. So welcome, Mike, and we look forward to that same capacity of work here in St. Helena. Turn it over to you.
I'll just say public speaking's not my thing, but I'm so much more of a doer. I'm just very excited for the opportunity, very grateful. I know I have a lot to learn here and looking forward to it, meeting the staff, visiting the sites. And that's all going to start next Thursday. So
Okay, great.
going gung-ho. So
Well, welcome, Mike. We
very appreciated.
happy to have you on board.
Awesome.
Thank you for being here tonight as well. It's very nice to meet you in person.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay, next Thursday. Okay, Mike Flores, remember that. Okay. Item 7C is the presentation by the student representative of the board. You will notice that she is not sitting with us, but she has provided us with her, closing out her term with a report for us.
Good evening. I'm sorry that I could not be here tonight in person, but I'm still glad I'm here to report. So just for the preface, I'd like to say that really my report tonight is about moving forward and next year and restructuring my position so that we create better community connections between all the school sites and student voice has more of a funnel in a direction. So when I thought about what could be improved about my position, I really thought about structure. That was the one thing I felt it lacked. So Ms. Brazil and I and some of the trustees met along with Mr. Aurelio, and we talked about, what would be the best practice for the position. And the way that Ms. Brazil and I attacked it is it could kind of be divided into quarters. So quarter one would be more of finding a comfortability in the position, meeting the trustees, meeting the principals, going to the school sites, and really just getting comfortable with the position and what it means to be a student board rep. So that would just be surveying each school about what topics they're interested in, the types of issues that they might want to tackle, and then choosing one topic that they really find is through each school, so a common thread or something that the actual student board representative is passionate about, and then focusing on that for the entire school year. So the idea would be that what they talk about in the first presentation would be what they talk about in the last presentation. So for quarter two, it would be the actualization project. It would be working with leadership at each school site. So at RLS, it would be the leadership. At the elementary school, it would be the mini student council. And then the primary, we're working on potentially making a second grade cohort of leadership kids. And then within the actualization project, it would be trying new things, finding solutions with those leadership groups, talking to the principals, maybe making more surveys, maybe, seeing what works and what doesn't, and then reporting that back to the school board so that they understand the actualization process and what's going on, and then how that's also connected to our LCAP. So hopefully one of the passions and one of the goals would be connected to the LCAP. So my example that I put in here potentially could be equity. So that's something that you could monitor at each of the schools. You could have your student leadership help monitor it, and then you could try and find solutions with students and adults. And then quarter 3 and 4 would be taking actions on the issues. So presenting a recommendation to the board, and then also monitoring success. So maybe we implement a new program, or maybe student leadership is trying something on their own and seeing how successful that is. And maybe that's quantitative data, maybe it's qualitative. That's really up to the student board rep and what the board feels is important. And then I just felt like this process really provides the structure the position needs, and it really allows for the community to feel as one, and we're all going towards a common purpose, so that it's just a little bit more guided during the presentations and you really see the work that's being done every single month. I feel like it makes a lot of sense for it to be quarterly, because these issues don't happen in a month or two or a couple weeks. I mean, it takes a lot of time. So one student board rep could start an issue, and that could go on for multiple student board reps. So it really gives the student representative a lot of freedom to do what they like, and also a lot of purpose. So I really think that having that structure is super helpful, so that we feel like we can tackle these really big issues that we have in the district. And really, just the whole overall goal for the position is to connect everybody with that common purpose that I talked about, is showing that thread throughout all of the reports, and feeling like we're really getting something done and fostering this productive change. And it's not just the student board rep doing it, but it's really all of the school sites and all of the leadership classes. And that's what I'm hoping next year will bring. So I'm really excited and sad that my time is ending here, but I think that this would be a really good change for the position, and I hope that you consider it.
Well, that right there exemplifies the importance of student voice. So that is great. And with that, our new representative would start in September. Is that correct? Okay. So I think those are, those are great ideas. I think it's giving more focus to the student voice. And so I am with that. Then I'm imagining that district staff would follow through with that in onboarding the new student rep and have the opportunity to meet and discuss those ideas. So, Carolyn, thank you. I know you're not watching, but we appreciate you and we miss you this evening. So thanks for putting that together. Trustees, anything to add on that? Okay. All right. Okay. We're going to move on to the consent agenda, which is item 8. And the consent agenda contains routine items judged as appropriate to be acted upon in one motion. If a board member requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda, the item will be considered under discussion and action items. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Any written comment? No? Okay. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, so now the first one here under communications is the board president's report, and this is going to be a new feature, as we talked about last time, that just to talk about things that necessarily aren't on the agenda and to update community and the board as well. The first thing I wanted to present for everybody's viewing was the timeline for the recruitment and selection of the next superintendent. You'll see here outlined, it starts with from March 29th of when Mr. Aurelio submitted his resignation, all the way through to where we have our a special meeting on May 23rd, where you can see that we'll interview the top search firms and approve a contract. So all these steps have, if the date has gone, including today, May 9th, those have all occurred. And then the proposals will be done, and then a subcommittee will review those, conduct reference checks, identify the top 2-3 firms, and then we'll do those interviews. And then once that happens, then the search is officially underway with a contract signed. On that note, you'll see that we have a subcommittee on there. So a subcommittee in this particular case would be made up of 2 people. So at this point, I would like to ask if there are 2 board members who would be willing to form that subcommittee for the superintendent search firm.
I would participate.
Okay, thank you.
I'll participate as well.
Okay, Thank you very much. Ms. Madrigal, you have that down? Okay. Yes, if Ms. Madrigal already wasn't your best friend, she will be your best friend through this next process as well. So, but she's a seasoned veteran, as you well know, so you're in good hands there to guide along. So thank you very much for stepping up to do that. Appreciate that. The other thing I want to just touch on is I know there's already been some talk about what's happening with summer programming in the pool for the summer, and next month, Dr. Vang will provide us a detailed program review of our options that are our offerings that will be available for June 17th through August 9th. I'm not going to go into it right now because she's still finalizing a few things with other community partners, but that is going to be available, and that's really great news, working with the Park and Rec Department. The second thing that's also coming, because one of the challenges, if you recall, is having lifeguards. Lifeguards shortage is a real problem for all the Valley, and there is a lifeguard training coming up. So we're going to help promote this as well, but it is happening June 13th through June 16th through the Waves. Kevin Toohey, of course, is the gentleman overseeing that, but there is new certification opportunities as well as recertification opportunities. And with that, we hope that being able to employ lifeguards, all the challenges that we had with staffing before, being able to offer more summer programming options will be able to come to fruition, because now we have the lifeguard staff that we absolutely need to have. So stay tuned for June board meeting, because that will have more specific details from Dr. Vang as well. So that is it, unless you have any questions.
Will that be communicated to the parents?
Yes, and it'll be on the district website. It'll be on the Parks and Rec district website as well.
Okay.
What all the options are. So yes, and I'm sure there'll be a flyer and sent out via Parent Square, whatnot to the community.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So with that, we'll move on to board member reports, and that's Trustee Kerr this evening.
Great, thank you very much. So, trustees, that's going to be short and sweet this evening. I'm sure you're disappointed about that. No. I had the opportunity to visit RLS on Tuesday, May 7th. It was wonderful seeing the students engaged in their learning, answering questions when prompted, and collaborating with their table mates. Mr. Ryan and I had great conversations about RLS being asked to be a school-wide demonstration. Being asked as a school-wide demonstration for AVID. So it's like a demonstration classrooms. And the Equity Student Belonging Group on campus that Mr. McLean sponsors. It is wonderful that RLS continues to be innovative and open to new opportunities. I very much appreciate Mr. Ryan's time, so thank you very much, especially during this busy time of the year. I always enjoy visiting RLS because the students are always so kind, polite, and full of smiles. And all the staff are always generous with their time and happy to share what they are doing in the classroom. I am looking forward to the 8th grade promotion on June 6th. I hope that we're all planning to be there. And congratulations to the 7th and 8th grade band students. So that's my report this evening.
Thank you so much.
And thank you again, Mr. Ryan, for your time. And please thank all of your staff for me as well for everything that they do every day for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kerr. 9C is a superintendent report. It is a written report this evening. I know, Mr. Aurelio, if there's anything you wanted to add.
I did want to add, and
Okay.
I just got back from New York,
Right.
and everything I did was written just in case I didn't make it back. But I did want to acknowledge all staff. There was staff appreciation last week. I did fall ill. I was not able to attend that event, but I heard it was a fantastic event. And it was a great opportunity to really celebrate the staff of St. Helena, which they do a tremendous amount of work. This week was Teacher Appreciation Week. I believe Wednesday was technically Teacher Appreciation Day. So a shout out to our teachers for really the work they do to make school the amazing place it is. And with that, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and the next one is 9D, which is the superintendent subcommittee reports. These are also written reports. Is there, it says public comment. Am I supposed to ask for public comment? I don't think I'm supposed to. No, that's okay.
I did.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not sure. I know you attended the Monrovia this morning,
I
and that's
did.
not included in this report. Is there anything you want to
No,
provide
actually,
additional?
the pool was something that
okay.
came up today. So I could, in the Monrovia, I think there was a common thing about pool, lifeguards, and I apologize that I'm not really too. Oh, I will say that one thing that I thought is that the Stephanie from the chamber talked about was that in early June they're going to reveal the artist that was selected for the mural project on the Y Down Hotel that has very unique ties to St. Helena. So there'll be a big grand unveiling about that. So that was something kind of. And then the other thing that kind of came up that she was, she was proud about. She talked about how the station was still offering $4 slices of pizza. And the only reason I'm bringing this up at a board meeting, I know you're thinking, where are you going with this? But is that she commented on that it was really being utilized by students because it was a large slice of pizza. And she's like, I think to make sure that all students know about this option that the station offers. And, they're trying to kind of make sure that the kids are being served as well, not just the adults and tourists that come to our town. So it was very sweet that she talked about that. But I put a star by it because she's like, it's really great. People need to know about it. So I've done my due diligence as a public service announcement on that. So that is pretty much it for that Monrovia. And if there's anything else, we can include it in a Friday memo, I think. Okay. Thank you. 9E, the St. Helena Teachers Association report to the board. And there he is, Mr. Lusseldorf, please. Yeah.
Good evening, trustees. I was going to say we had a wonderful, kind of a late lunch, I guess, last Wednesday, and we really appreciate all the efforts the district makes to put that on, and it was well attended, and everybody seemed to have a good time. But the best part, I wanted to give a little shout out. We have one retiree this year, and it's not any retiree. This is a person that's been teaching for 50 years. All right, so Alice Ray. So just a little shout out to her. So, yeah, she's been a real champion for students who are the ones who kind of go unheard, who are sometimes maybe lack a little academic prowess or determination, and she's always been a really good voice for that. In addition to giving personally, she sets up scholarships, so really we will miss her. So, thank you. That's it. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Hope the rest of the year is smooth for you as well.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 9F is the CSCA report to the board. Oh, thank you.
Hi, I'm Josefina. So I am here at the district office. For those who don't know me, I'm the secretary for the academic service department. So I work with Vettel and Michelle in the little corner. So, and I'm also the vice president for the CSCA. We were talking, and I wanted to, instead of you guys reading it, I wanted to come up and read it myself when we talked as a board. And I was like, I would volunteer. I'll come and speak in the board meeting. So it's my first time, so I'm a little nervous. I'm sorry about that. So I didn't write this up, but I think Nikki did a great job. And she's like, here you go. So I'm just going to read off what Nikki, our secretary, wrote. So for looking back, she wrote, as we're near the end of the 23-24 school year, we want to reflect on the loss of our coworker and commend the maintenance department and Dr. Caving for handling the many maintenance requests and needs. We also share our appreciation to Dave Perry for stepping in to support maintenance until a new director is hired. We also want to celebrate Dawn because her son Hunter is graduating, and she is one of our CSEA members. Hunter was actively involved in 4-H since he was quite young and has been raising pigs since he was 9 years old. Hunter enjoys playing football and lacrosse at the Vintage High School. And we wish Hunter well on his dreams to becoming an officer to the Department of Fish and Games, and upon his enrollment of college, he will receive a scholarship from CSCA. And then moving forward, CSEA and the district signed a tentative agreement for Article 15 wages and allowance, which ensured the 2014-2015 school year, our salary schedules will increase by the same amount as our all other units. Property taxes revenue should be finalized in August, and we anticipate the salary increase will be received by September's payroll. We are appreciative of the district's effort in negotiation. Thank you, Chris Heller. Thank you, Dr. Kay Vang, and we look forward to this agreement and receiving approval. And as a classified school employees, we commit to serving Santa Elena Unified School District as fellow educators to promote best outcome for our students. And I just want to, I hope to continue to do this. I really told Ricky, Rita, and Nikki, and David that I think it's important for us to, you can see us who we are and show our faces, because I think it just, as teachers, we're all very valuable, as well as from maintenance to paras, all of us were very important people, and I think you guys should, we should be able to come up here and not be afraid to speak. So I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. We love having you here. Thank you very much, actually. We always welcome people to come to our meetings. Thank you for that. Items 9, G, H, I, and J are our written reports from our school site principals, as always. So thank you for all that information, principals. I was really excited to kind of hear about at the high school about that mental health ambassador program. I think we actually heard about that one year at CSBA. And it was really powerful presentation. And I think it's the same one, Mr. Cinto. Maybe it is. I don't know if it is. But anyway, kudos on that coming to the high school. It sounds great. So thank you for that. And then with that, student learning and achievement, we're going to go on to item 10A, which is the public hearing regarding the 2024-25 Local Control Accountability Plan. Mr. Heller.
Okay, so this is the draft Local Control Accountability Plan for the years 2024 to 2027, and it's presented tonight for public hearing to provide input from community members and our governing board as well. These recommendations will be reviewed for consideration in the final document, which will come back to the board in the June meeting. Veronica Miranda, I want to acknowledge her because she led a lot of the work on the data collection and measurements that you see, as well as Dr. Kay Vang to provide the related budget analysis and numbers that you see within the LCAP. District staff will continue to work with Dr. Lucy Pearson Edwards from the Napa County Office of Education in areas that we need to refine to ultimately receive the Napa County Office of Education approval in their meeting in July. So as this is a new LCAP and has a different look and feel and presentation, I'd like to provide an overview of some of the modifications in the PowerPoint that we have. And if you recall the previous LCAP, we had 4 goals and a lot of actions. And our steering committee, through the work that we've done in the last couple of years, especially this year as we did goal analysis, really recommended that we reduce these goals and actions to really tangible things that we are doing and can measure. And again, if you recall, the previous LCAP was designed in 2021 post COVID pandemic, and the district really wanted to show everything we were doing to support student learning coming out of the pandemic, and maybe we're a little overzealous in placing a lot of goals and actions in there that didn't always necessarily have proper measurement, and some of the actions we just never were able to get to. So I think through the work of the steering committee and the feedback, we really wanted to be concise in what we're trying to do, kind of broaden our goals a little bit, but be specific in our actions of the things that we know are in place or things that we know we need to address. And so, and within goal number 1, it deals with academic growth. This was not modified much. The academic growth is our top priority, and closing the achievement gap as well. And then a lot of the things within here we've talked about throughout the year is professional learning communities, our commitment to not only the staff development but the implementation of the structures of the PLC, and along with that the supports that are provided in MTSS, the multi-tiered system of support, that is really designed to support newcomers and special education students in their progress. And then really having some targeted professional development, some focused areas on our English Learner Roadmap to really refine that and make sure that it's a usable working document, and continuing our work in mathematics with building thinking classrooms. These are all things that we have in place right now. These are things that we're continuing to build upon, and so it just makes sense to call these three out as our top priorities within goal number 1. In goal number 2, we combined 2 of our goals and just kind of broadened the goal itself just to say a welcoming and nurturing district environment. We had a previous goal regarding social justice and another goal that talked a little bit about wellness. So I think we just felt that making it a little bit of a broader goal and then having these specific actions in here that talk a little bit, again, professional development, but this professional development really supports a lot of students in terms of, as you heard tonight, focusing on some training on bullying, prevention, acceptance, trauma-informed practices, which does align with the MTSS, and then restraint training and CPI for special education classrooms for staff. So those are different components that we need to offer throughout the year. And again, with our schedule realignment that we have proposed to align all TK-12 sites to have early release Wednesday, we feel there's more opportunities for us to provide those trainings within the school day as it is. And the second goal, I kind of covered that, and that just talks a little bit about social emotional learning, which is a component of the MTSS structure, and then coming back and really revisiting our PBIS models and making sure that that is refreshed in all of our staff's mind of how we conduct ourselves not only as students but as adults at work. Enrichment opportunities, this kind of answers that question number 4 within the PLC. What are the opportunities that we have not only to enrich inside the classroom but outside the classroom, as we've talked about through our field trip committee, establishing a certain number of field trips and making sure that students have in-class experience but also out-of-class experiences as well. And then goal number 3, this is a goal within the LCAP, is a high priority in terms of just continuing our outreach for our educational partners, having them feel that they're a part of the district. One of the top priorities that came up through the survey was just ways that we can increase the communication between classroom and parents, and making sure that we have Parent Square that we implemented this year, and making sure that we're using it to its capacity to ensure that teachers have opportunities not only to send out messages, but really promote two-way communication through Parent Square to where parents can write to teachers directly and teachers can respond through that. So we have a mechanism of tracking that to ensure that the outreach is there. And also giving parents workshops and trainings designed around areas of interest. We heard a public comment tonight regarding fentanyl. And so obviously those types of things, as we get that feedback of what parents want to have in a training or a workshop, is something that we want to be responsive to. And then making sure our coordination of services is provided to make sure that students have access to services such as mental health and Up Valley counseling and those types of services, to find a way to coordinate that and streamline that so that information isn't taboo or not known by the students and families, but really promote that in a way that makes it easy for them to access. So within those 3 goals, those are our broad actions. And on the last slide, I scratched my eye, sorry. Oh no, is, I can go to mine. Oh, there we go. So this is our public hearing to get input on the goals and actions. And we're going to use this month an opportunity that we have future meetings, DLAC, ELAC, well, those have already occurred. And administrative meetings, site. I'm going to take this to leadership and share it with leadership. And then we're going to take all of the feedback that we receive and really refine it to take the draft and take the input and see where it can strengthen the goals and actions or have new topics for us to consider and see where it fits. and then we'll bring that back into the governing board meeting in June for final approval, and then forward it on to the county in July, and then we'll have our new 3-year LCAP that'll kind of set our vision for the next 3 years. So with that, that is a very high overview of the 75-page document. I do want you to know that it's under 100 pages for the first time in some time. I do want to just add a commentary that the steering committee really did provide feedback about really keeping it simple and user-friendly. And unfortunately, I feel that the document itself is not super user-friendly for people to easily digest and see what is stated in there. So that's something that once the LCAP is approved, that I want to find a way to make it very easy to process and maybe do like a 1 to 2 page user version that we can post on the website along with it. And then also look to have another infograph as we did 2 years ago that really, in a colorful way can show the goals and actions that we're trying to achieve. That's a better visual representation of the LCAP. So those are a couple things that I was thinking as a result of the work that we've done on this. So it's open for, we'll be open for a public hearing for a minute.
Okay.
And I do want to also say that the governing board has provided some written and verbal comments that I've already recorded. And so if you'd like to state those again, that's perfectly fine. I can write those down again tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Heller. The public hearing for the 2024-25 Local Control Accountability Plan is now open at 6:55 p.m. Comments during this public hearing should be limited to the LCAP only. It is our goal to hear from all who wish to be heard. And as Mr. Heller stated, the minimum time for this meeting, the hearing to be open is 1 minute. So if anybody has from the audience would like to come up and address the Board of Trustees on the LCAP, please do so at this time. I'm assuming there's no public, any comments on Zoom. Okay. Okay, so we just wait. I think I've got like 30 more seconds, so I'm a rule follower. So, right?
15.
What's that?
15.
15 seconds? Okay,
Yep.
Thank you. It's always like the longest.
President Pelosi, 1 minute has elapsed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Heller. The governing board has not received any comments or concerns at this point. The public hearing is now closed at 6:56 p.m. Trustees, any questions about the 2024-25 LCAP?
I'm one that sent a list of suggestions back, but there are a couple I just kind of wanted to highlight because we don't ever get a chance to talk about them. So I just wanted to share them at a high level, but there are a couple times, I'm a big advocate of metrics. So a lot of these goals, we have the baseline and we have the maybe I'm looking at the wrong column, sorry. Anyway, what we're targeting, I'm on the wrong pages completely, sorry, to get the right data. But basically, there were a couple times where the baseline measurement didn't match the targets. So we needed to make sure that if it's a percent baseline, it's a percent at the target, or points, I think was the other example. Some of them didn't have data, so those will be added. And then adding in what our target is for year 1, year 2, year 3, so that it's not just a 5% as an example, so we can actually see what the numbers are that they're looking for. Let's see, I think that was it. One of the comments, since our main goal is around decreasing or increase student achievement while decreasing the achievement gap, we didn't target the specific decrease within that. I'm doing this because I'm thinking of the chart where you want to see them coming together. So it would be nice if we call out how we're planning on decreasing that, since that's the overall goal. Does that make sense? Like if it's a 30% gap at the end of year one, we want it to be a 25% gap because we want the gap to go down. So I just didn't see that called out. I was hoping that to see a specific actions for, there were goals around, I think it's career indicator or career readiness and A to G. I didn't see any actions for specific things that we were doing to increase those, so that was just something that was missing. And then one of the things that I was thinking about as our goals change, as our subcommittees are going to change, we typically have a subcommittee for each of the goals. One thing that has not been in place, at least since I've been here, is a actual subcommittee for our number one goal, which is student achievement. So I was just actually looking if we could have a subcommittee for each of the goals and be consistent. And that was it.
Trustees, any other comments or questions? I would echo the A through G requirement. That percentage was on the, was kind of surprising to see. And I guess just asking staff, how can the board, how can the board support the staff, the school sites with in seeing that number be a little bit higher for a higher degree of completion for A to G requirements. And perhaps it's already being looked at. I'm not saying that it's not, but that was something that struck me in reading through that LCAP of why is that at the level that it's at? Is it capacity of staff? Is it just kids deciding to do different things post high school? It's
definitely something to pay attention to.
Yeah, it definitely should be. It's something that struck me. So that would be my commentary on that. But I know it's a work in progress. It's a living, breathing document, and I thank you all for your time that you've put in on it.
And I do want to remind the board, earlier this year there was an approval for the A to G grant that was specific dollars for that reason.
Right. Exactly.
To address, and I know Principal Cinto has a plan for that.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
That's great to hear. I was wondering if we could receive that in a Friday memo down the road, or what his plan is. I share the same concerns that you do when I was looking through this, looking at college and career indicator, which I believe is CTE and A through G. Is that correct?
The college and career has a variety of different ways to meet. It's a very complex, it's probably the most complex indicator on the dashboard. But there's you can meet it by certain test scores on top of certain classes. There's a whole formula.
Right.
For that.
Okay, good to know, because I was looking at that as well and looking at some of the subgroups and having some concern over some of the subgroups in those areas, since that's more than just A through G course completion. So again, I am excited to hear what Principal Cinto does with those dollar amounts that will focus on increasing A through G, and also since this is the one that I'm really passionate about. Also, Chris, I would appreciate it if you could work with the high school admin and our high school counselors, so you can show how we can show an increase in the overall A through G completion percentage. I know you have it at an increase at 10%, but just trying to stay at a really high level as a board, I would appreciate if you could work with counselors and admin.
Yes. Okay.
And
Absolutely.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
I also, since we're talking about college and career indicators and A through G course completion, I also wanted to know that does every student at this high school have an opportunity to meet one-on-one to develop a 4-year plan with their counselors? A post-secondary plan that could be college, if not college, trade school. But I was curious if every student does have that opportunity. if the counselors seek them out or if the students have to seek the counselor out. I'm curious about how that works at the high school. Thank you.
Are you looking for a response now, or do you want us to?
No, I think this is a hearing, so we're not.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just taking feedback.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I was actually looking at AG requirements as well, so that would be, all of that's been requested, I think is I'm good with all of that, for sure. I'm looking at the, it's page 26, just to kind of give you a reference, the provide professional development and training opportunities to support and welcoming a nurturing school and district environment. And I do see some funding attached to that. And also, you also stated something about the student equity, belonging, and the need to support the LGBTQ communities and students. So my question about this is, with this professional, so far as professional development, can we also have some funding set aside in order for our students to have different like workshops or speakers or something, just because of the kind of the rise of bullying and hate motivated speech that's occurring right now, just so that our students have more training on that as well and more information about it. And I think that's all I have at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, trustees?
I forgot to ask, I think at one of our subcommittee meetings, I can't remember which one, we talked about, it must have been LCAP, talked about adding science because it's on the dashboard next year. So I don't know if that belongs here or not, but that was another thing for us if we want to be watching it next year. It doesn't have to be an LCAP, but I think it came up in that subcommittee meeting.
Specifically, do you want it named? Because I know it says ELA math and core subjects,
but it's joining the.
But do you want a metric specifically attached to CAST, which is the science test, which will now end up on the dashboard?
I think that's what came up, is we should start looking next year at our science scores before it gets on the dashboard, was what came up in that meeting.
Right.
So I don't know if it's here, or I don't know where it belongs. I just wanted to make sure that has a home.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
No, it's a good plan.
Thank you.
I have a question. Since this is a hearing and we're just listening, not speaking to us, can the principals have a chance to make any comments right now at the podium?
Well, I think because we've already had a public comment section, so at that point the commentary is closed.
Okay.
At that, and know that as this.
No, I understand that, but sometimes when we have a question after open comment, they are able to come
No, I'm
up
going
and
to look
clarify.
to Miss Magical. I would say that probably it's not allowed.
Well, if you would like to pose a question to Mr. Heller or Mr. Aurelio or Dr. Vang, you may, and then they can defer to a principal if they would like. They could do that handoff, if you will.
Okay, so I guess my question is if any of the principals would like to respond to any of the commentary that we've made tonight. It's an open-ended
To
question.
rephrase that, Mr. Heller, can you
Mr.
comment any of
Heller.
that so I can defer? Yes. Mr. Cinto, would you like to approach and discuss A to G?
Evening. So I forget what month it was where you approved the A to G plan. We currently have 10 students who are attending the UOP summer programming residential thing, with the goal of, we chose students who normally wouldn't otherwise be able to afford it, who are also sitting on the fence, who wouldn't be A to G qualified, because most of our students do take A to G coursework, but you have to have a C or better in every single course. So the second you get below that, you're excluded. And also it's also not the ambition of some students. So hopefully with just those 10 students, should we move the dial there, that's about 12% of an increase right there. So you also approved funding for supplemental Apex coursework that would be implemented to mitigate their lower than a C average in any A to G approved course. So yeah, that is our goal. students do develop a 4-year plan with their counselor. Obviously, it gets modified and tweaked as time progresses, but yeah, we're in the throes of improving our A to G rate. But as Mr. Aurelio said, the CCI indicator is made up of many different things, and we actually perform really, I mean, that's one of our strengths as a school and district. But it is comprised of many different things because they're looking to, I mean, even ASVAB, taking the ASVAB as a way to meet it, Seal of Biliteracy, Golden State Seal, Merit Diploma, college level coursework. So all of those things help produce a CCI indicator in the positive, which we are. But A to G is a tricky one because it's dependent on both student course taking behavior and outcomes within those courses, which, you know, if you look at our grade distribution rate, it is nowhere near a bell curve. So where our students are actually situated really well. We have, I would say, on average, about 45% of the grades that we issue are A's, and then it trickles all the way down after that. So I think our students, I think if we look closer at it, our A to G completion rate is higher than I think we would, looking at all those different factors, when you see course taking behavior and those kind of things, is higher than I think it may appear on paper. Does that help?
Yeah, that helped. Thank you.
Question?
Well, not really a question, just kind of maybe an ask. When I was looking at the A to G completion rate, also, my question was my thought that I had was, I wonder what it's looked like in the past 10 years. Is there a way that we could see kind of where 10 years to present, how it's, where we've landed each year?
That data is on DataQuest. If you do a DataQuest search, you can go back multiple years. A to G rates.
Right. Okay.
It is available.
Okay, great.
It's publicly available.
But if you would like staff to prepare that, we can do that as well.
I would like that, please. Yes, thank you.
And Mr. Heller, just to reiterate, because I've asked you to please work with the high school admin and high school counselors, that's because, again, I want to stay high, but also receive more of that information.
Yes.
Thank you.
Understood. Yep.
You said that very
trying to
trying
to stay high.
Yeah, that she does, doesn't she? Okay. Trustees, anything further? No? Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much, as always. Okay, now let me go back here. Pardon me one moment when I toggle back and forth here. Okay, so now we're on to 10B, which is the written report on the St. Helena Unified School District 2024 Summer School Program. This is a written report, just to remind everybody. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? No. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
It's okay.
Yeah.
One of the questions I have is, do we have our numbers yet for the students that are going to be participating?
We are currently working. I know Miss Morrison, who's our summer admin person, so our summer admin administrator for the year, is working with the school site. So we are developing. We have the lists already, and have begun to invite students. We were also looking at hiring our teachers, also to know how many students we could invite. So we actually just closed that as well. So that is in the process as we speak.
So in process.
Yes, and we have looked at what we've done in the past, just the highlight, as you have the report here. So just highlights of changes. Last year, we offer one grade level, so one teacher per grade level, as our teachers have applied for that. So up to 20, 24 students depending on the grade level, and then we invite our students and try to fill that up. This year, as you read on here, the curriculum will be a little different, so I'm going to call it disguised learning. Same number of days as last year, and we're also really trying to recruit our rising 7th, 8th graders or our current 6th and 7th graders to come in. We do have teachers this year to be able to offer that programming.
That's great.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, shout out to Galileo. My son's done that program in the summer where we used to live, and it's wonderful hands-on project-based learning. So, Veronica, thank you for bringing that to St. Helena, and I really hope that it encourages more students to go to summer camp.
Gotta call it that instead of summer school. Let's change it.
Great. Thank you so much. Trustees, anything else? No. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to 10C, which is the written report on student discipline for the school year 2023-2024. This is also a written report. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? No. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? No? Okay. I just want to pause, make sure that everybody's comfortable before I move on. All right. It looks like we're good. I'm going to move on then. Pardon me one second here. This is going to then be 10D, is the 2023-24 California Interscholastic Federation Annual Written Report from the St. Helena High School. And I believe that's also a written report. Okay. Any public comment on this agenda item? No? Okay. Trustees, any questions about that agenda item? No? Okay.
I have a quick question. You know, looking through the injury reporting, and I understand football is a very physical sport. I did see that it had the most concussions. What does the district do to help curb instructions? Is it, you know, the type of padding and helmets, or I don't know if this is a question but do we continue to think about how we can decrease concussions?
I think it's something we can definitely pose to our athletic director, see what. And,
Okay.
And Mr. Heller, I don't know if that's at the CIF meetings. Is that discussed at all? Is there a plan through CIF?
Well, there's always concussion protocol where students are evaluated before they're deemed eligible to return to athletic competition.
Okay.
So a trainer will assess that. There's a concussion baseline test that all students take, and then when this type of event occurs, if there's any doubt, they keep them out of the game until they're evaluated. So in terms of, you know, training, football, you're right, is a violent sport, and there's a lot of contact into certain plays. And so a lot of that, you know, if you look at basketball, there's 2 concussions as well. I think the important thing is to note is 20 years ago, they weren't reported. You would just get you know, your bell rung or something like that, and students would continue to play. So I think it really speaks to the fact of how serious concussions are treated in this day and age, to make sure that students are evaluated before they're able to return. So I'm not directly answering that as far as any additional training. There's a protocol that coaches go through to evaluate students, but as far as students go, that is just making sure that if they have any symptoms of it, that they understand they're not participating until they're evaluated.
And this goes for all the sports?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Specifically with football, we are seeing, I know, starting at the pro level, college level, you're seeing they're wearing these additional cushions on top of helmets.
Yeah, that's what I was
Have you seen those?
referring to. Yeah,
And I don't know if that's made it all the way down to high school level. I'm sure it comes at a cost.
I know there are additional neck supports and things like that to decrease concussions. So.
Yes, we have those.
Okay.
Guardians, yes.
Guardians, great. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering
But
if
I was
that-
asking, but not as eloquently as you.
I figured that's where
Had
you're
that
going.
additional
There's that
padding. and-
padding on the.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Want to keep those brains nice and safe.
Exactly.
Sounds like we're doing that, so
Yes,
great.
it does. And the name is very appropriate, being called Guardians as well, right? That
Yes.
extra protection. Okay, trustees, ready to move on? Okay, great. The next one is 10E, which is the written report on hate-motivated behavior. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Trustees, questions about this agenda item? Okay. No, I don't. Mine not really a question. I just noticed, and it gets answered as well about through the discipline report.
They go hand in hand.
They kind of go hand in hand. And so as I was reading one and not before or after the whatever way I went through them, I was wondering if there were like school-wide educational and speaker opportunities. So for those people that maybe are listening to us and our viewing audience, is that there are school-wide that don't just that speak to the entire site about these behaviors and protocols and rules and what it means to bully or use hate speech. So I wanted to make sure that it wasn't if that there was actually not just individual education for maybe a student that had violated an ed code related to hate motivated speech, but there was actually the whole site is getting those opportunities to be educated. So I thought that was great. And then I was just wondering, and again, I'm not expecting anybody to have an answer, but if it makes any sense, if it's time to bring down an age appropriate presentation to the elementary school. There really wasn't much talk in the reports about that. But given that, sometimes we do hear of some instances of unkind behavior and words being used on the blacktop, that maybe it's time for the district to think about, maybe it's a fifth grade presentation only. I'm not saying I know the answer to that, but I would encourage the district to maybe have those discussions on how that could maybe trickle down to the next site.
Right, and you don't see data for them because there wasn't any data for them.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, and I wasn't, but it just
Right.
made me think like, well, because sometimes we hear of situations that happen, and maybe it would be beneficial to start even just a little bit younger as they move up through middle school and into the high school. So just 2 cents to throw in there. Anything else, trustees?
No.
Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to item 11, which is board-related items. We're going to go over to B since A was pulled. Item B is approval of the CSBA Governance Self-Assessment Tool, Timeline, and Contract. Trustees, I will just lead this conversation on this, is that every year we do our own self-evaluation. We have used this tool for the last handful of years from CSBA, since it's the organization that provides our governance and professional education. So I think if you've had an opportunity to look over the attached documents, I wanted to see if you had any questions about the tool, the criteria, or the timeline about completing this. So that's my first question to you. No, that timeline seems doable. Okay.
Yeah.
And then let's see what else we need to do. We also, I guess if there's no questions, I'm going to ask for public comment on this agenda item. No? Okay. So with that, is there a motion to approve the tool, the timeline, and contract for the annual board self-evaluation as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. And Erica, thank you for your help, because I know you'll be assisting us with that evaluation. So thank you so much, as always. Okay, item C is the adoption of Resolution 23-30, Pride Month for June 2024. And let's see, Mr. Aurelio?
Great, and I'm really proud to bring this item to you all. I did receive a letter from the leadership team at the high school asking that we bring this forward to honor LGBTQ plus Pride Month for the month of June with a request to raise the Pride flag in front of Vintage Hall. So with that, we have a resolution.
Okay, great.
And we ask for approval.
All right, thank you. We always like to read the resolutions as we do. So this will be an eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and I'm going to pick on Trustee Kerr to read the resolution this evening.
Thank you. Thank you. St. Helena Unified School District, Resolution Number 23-30, Pride Month 2024. Whereas the vision and mission of the St. Helena Unified School District promote a safe, supportive, and inclusive learning environment where all students can fully develop as resilient, caring, and responsible individuals and citizens. And whereas the St. Helena Unified School District celebrates diversity in students, staff, and the school community. And whereas the district is firmly committed to providing a safe, nurturing, and tolerant environment in our schools. And whereas the district is firmly committed to school safety for all students, staff, and family members, including the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, LGBTQ plus community, or those that may be perceived as such. And whereas Board Policy 5145.3 prohibits discrimination in its programs and activities based on gender or sexual orientation, among other characteristics. And whereas June is a symbolic month in which LGBTQ plus their families, friends, and allies come together in various celebrations of freedom and pride. Therefore, be it resolved, the St. Helena Unified School District proclaims the month of June 24th to be LGBTQ plus Pride Month and will honor and highlight the accomplishments and contributions of LGBTQ plus students, staff, and their families. Pride Month is an avenue to ensure that bullying, harassment, and discrimination based on real or perceived orientation, gender identity, and gender expression are deemed unacceptable in our community. Be it further resolved, by recognizing Pride Month, the district continues to support all other policies, practices, and curricula that honor and respect LGBTQ plus students, staff, families, and the greater community. This was passed and adopted this day, the 9th day of May, 2024.
Thank you so much, and
Welcome.
thank you for allowing me to call you on the spot
Absolutely.
there.
Thank you.
Is there anyone participating who wishes to comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 23-30, Pride Month, as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Magical will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, item 11D is the approval of proposed board policy changes for April 2024 committee meeting. Mr. Aurelio, please.
So this evening we bring just a small handful of policy updates for the board to approve. You can see them listed here on this chart. We have Board Policy 1300, which is use of school facilities. With also, we bring for your review, not approval, of the administrative regulation that goes with this board policy. We also have a board policy around other food sales, and that update that we're bringing to you as well as the administrative regulation. And then we have a student activity funds board policy, and that is a policy that we are bringing forward after having conducted the FICMAT ASB training that was held on March 26th. Dr. Vang brought that in for our staff to receive that training. And then we have one more board policy on graduation ceremonies and activities and the AR, and that was a board policy that was updated with recommendations from this discipline committee. And we asked for board approval.
Great, thank you. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Trustees, questions about this agenda item? I had one clarifying question on the facilities, and I apologize. I read it through a couple of times, and I thought maybe in the edits I saw it, but is there a special language for nonprofits to use the facilities, correct? Okay, and was there fee for nonprofits or no fees?
Dr. Vang, I can bring up the schedule if you'd like.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Tough to read. There you go.
Yeah, that's okay.
The categories are listed below.
Got
You'll
it.
see there.
There we go. Local nonprofit. Okay, perfect. Okay,
So it's a reduced rate.
it is a reduced rate. So, okay, great. Thank you so much. I now know where to find it as well. So I appreciate that. And I'll take a closer look at that as well. So thank you. Trustees, any other questions or? No. Okay. So is there a motion to approve the proposed board policy changes as recommended by the Board Policy Committee as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. Ms. Magical will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, item 12A is consideration of approval for the 2024-25 Declaration of Need. Mr. Heller, please.
Each year, the district's required to file this declaration of need for potential short-term credential waivers with the Napa County Office of Education if we are in a spot where we need to employ teachers who do not possess a credential. Although we don't foresee this occurring in our district, the Declaration of Need provides us with the flexibility with the California Teaching Commission with estimates and positions should an unexpected need arise. And again, we don't anticipate a need, but we do this annually as a good practice and make sure that if there was an unforeseen need, those positions are listed.
Great. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve the 2024-2025 Declaration of Need as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Item 12B is consideration of approval of the tentative agreement with CSEA Chapter 287 for the period of July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. Mr. Heller, please.
Yes, this evening the tentative agreement with CSEA is presented for your approval. This one-year agreement will close negotiations until spring 2024. We again would like to thank CSEA's leadership for a productive and team approach in arriving to this agreement, and we ask your approval.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? No? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? No questions. Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve the tentative agreement with CSEA Chapter 287 for July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carried. Item 12C is review and consider approval of AB 1200 public disclosure documents associated with the tentative agreement between St. Helena Unified School District and the California School Employees Association 287. Dr. Vang, that's you.
Thank you. So with the tentative agreement with CSEA Chapter 287, I'm also bringing forth the AB 1200 public disclosure document. This is part of the process as well. And along with the AB 1200 document, I've also included the multi-year projection for both the second interim and next year's budget so that you can have both of those as a reference. As you know, we have a formula that's in place, and that formula will be based on actuals. Once I get the J29 document around August, I will have the formula completed with a finalized number to bring back to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve AB 1200 public disclosure documents associated with the tentative agreement between St. Helena Teachers Association and CSEA as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, item 13A under facilities, authorize staff to negotiate architectural contracts for small projects, $5 million or under. Dr. Vang, please.
All right, so we had sent out the RFQ. We received 3 responses. One of the vendors was actually someone who is already in the pool, and so if they were already in the pool, they do not need to apply again. So really, there are really only 2 responses that are valid, and that I am bringing this forth for the board for approval. We've got Casa Studio and Persinger Architects and Associates. And so these documents I'm bringing this forward to you and asking that you authorize district staff to negotiate these small projects under $5 million moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Okay. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
I have a quick question. So these two architectural contracts will be included with others that are already in the pool. Is that correct? Yes.
It's my understanding that this is the second time that we've put out the request for qualifications. And when we did this back in 2022, I believe we had 2 responses. So we already have, for example, Strata is already a qualified architect firm that's already in that pool. So they do not need to apply again. Once they apply and we've accepted them into the pool, they remain in the pool.
In the pool. Okay.
Yes. So we only really have 2 new
Right. So there's
firms.
There's like 4 in the pool right now.
Right.
Then it sounds like.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you.
And I don't need great detail, but how does one get accepted into the pool? Like, what are the parameters for that?
So we use Great Stone West, and working closely with Great Stone West, they have a criteria, and we use that criteria to rank our to look at the qualifications for these architectural firms, and based on that, then we make a decision collaboratively as to whether or not they have the qualifications needed for the specific services that we're seeking. Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm sorry. This is a logistical one. So then, does it go then through, does that pool then go through the bid process in order to decide which one we use for a project? Or how does that work?
So we have flexibility in that, so we can do it 2 ways. We can, once we know what our project is and we need an architectural service, a firm, we can either pick one of the firms based on our prior experience of working with them, or we can ask them for quotes and then compare the quotes and go with that. So we have options. Once they're in the pool, we don't need to take it out for bid. We can just look at who's in our pool, and then we can decide how we want to go about selecting the firm.
Okay. So it doesn't necessarily mean, it's not like bidding with contractors where you have to take the least amount. Yeah. Okay. The smallest. Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the district's request to issue a request for qualifications to increase the district's pool of architects qualified to provide services for small projects less than $5 million as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Please don't make me repeat that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. 13B, approval to begin the public bidding process for the electric vehicle bus charging stations and the St. Helena High School greenhouse renovation projects. Dr. Vang, please.
Thank you. We have 2 upcoming projects. One of them, as you already know, is the EV charging, bus charging station. And then the second one is the St. Helena greenhouse renovation project. The greenhouse, we actually have a grant. The high school has a grant in the amount of $80,000 through the Career Tech grant, and we are planning on using those funds. We will also use Ag Booster funds that are sitting in Fund 40 to offset the difference of any costs that may not be covered by the grant. And I'm bringing forth both of these projects, asking the board to approve staff to start the bidding process for both of these projects.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? No? Okay. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
I'm just curious, what is kind of the timeline? I mean, how long do you think the process will take for us to have the station ready for the buses? And
So I believe the buses are coming in, I want to say, was it October? Don't quote me on it. I will double check, but I think it was around October. And so in preparation for the buses, we need to get the EV chargers. We've been looking at the infrastructure. We've had a team out there, and now we just need to get the bidding process and get get the actual construction up and running in preparation for the buses.
Okay, so we're hoping by sometime this fall, maybe, to have our buses rolling.
Fingers crossed.
Cool.
Yes.
We'll have to plan a ground or a
Right.
ribbon cutting.
And
for
then
buses.
for the greenhouse, we are planning on making the purchase. The purchase has to be made for the equipment for the greenhouse. It has to be made before June 30th.
Is it June? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustees, anything else? Any other questions? Okay. So is there a motion to approve the public bidding process for the electric vehicle bus charging stations and the St. Helena High School greenhouse renovation projects?
I will make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Magical will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, item 14 is business operations, and our first item is the draft of the 2024-25 original budget, board approval, and public hearing. Dr. Vang, please.
Thank you. I feel like I just did the budget, and here we are again. All right. So the 24-25 original budget for next school year. Moving on to the first slide. As you know, we're waiting for the governor's May release, and that should be around May 14th. However, right now I do have the budget. I do have the budget ready to share with you based on the data that I have currently available. And then when I do get the May revision and we have the governor's update, if any of that information differs, that will be included in the report so that when I bring it back in June, you'll have that information. I'll make sure I point that out as well. Moving on to the next slide. So this is the public hearing, and by law, the public hearing has to be held before the actual adoption. And that's what we're doing here is we are having a public hearing. The report itself, the budget report itself, was actually available for public inspection as of Monday of this week. So that report was available. I don't believe we've had anyone who had requested to actually see to inspect the report here at the district office. On the next slide. So the next steps prior to the June adoption, as I stated previously, once the governor releases his May revision, if there are any necessary changes, I will make those revisions, and then I will bring those back along with if there were any changes to the LCAP, if there are any funding changes, I'll make those changes as well because it will impact the budget, and then finalize that budget and bring back to you along with the budget assumptions. So that will include the original budget, the LCAP, and the assumptions. On the next slide, you've seen these next two slides before. These are the key assumptions that went into the 24-25 original budget. These are information that I currently have, whether it's from School Services of California, the dartboard for the governor's budget, or the including the P2 attendance reports, and the P2 property tax report. So all of the current reports that I have with the most current information went into this report, and that's what you see up here are all the key assumptions. The supplemental grant portion, that $934,609, that comes from our LCFF local control funding formula calculator. So that number is for our supplemental, our unduplicated students, and this is the amount that's generated from the 418 students who are unduplicated. The mandate block grant, the California lottery, those are all amounts that are preset, and I take those directly from the school services dartboard. Cost of living, you can see the COLA for next year and the two subsequent years. And you'll notice that for 24-25, it is at 0.76%, which is much lower than the COLA that was originally presented by the by school services that was projected earlier on. And then you see a slight, you see an increase in the out years. For us as a basic aid district, the COLA doesn't necessarily reflect our funding as we are funded off of property taxes. However, that COLA does affect any of our state funds that we do receive through the state. Moving on to the next slide, the second is more information regarding our key assumptions, salary increases. Until I actually complete the formula and have that number, I will include that as I get to first and second interim next year. Step and column is usually right around 2%. STRS is projected to remain flat, whereas PERS for classified staff, that is projected to increase slightly over the years. And then our medical benefits, we usually do a rough estimate of about 10%. Consumer price index, you can see that right around 2-3% as well. Next slide. So on this slide is our multi-year projection. Our multi-year projection is our best guess of the income, the revenue, and the expenses that we will have over the course of not only the current year, but the 2 out years. And so our budget years, the 2024, 25, and then the 2 subsequent years. So the multi-year projection that you're looking at includes revenues, expenses. You can see the slight increase in revenues due to the fact that there was a projection. The key assumptions included 2% growth in property taxes. And then you see expenditures for all 3 years, and then an overall net decrease in all 3 years. And you can see that by the 3rd year in 26-27, that net decrease is much higher, much more significant compared to the next school year. And looking at our fund balance, we're looking at unrestricted only, and so our unrestricted dollars, because restricted dollars are like federal dollars, Title I, Title II. We don't count that as our fund balance because those are restricted for a purpose. They can only be expense within there are tight. You have to follow the guidelines for those expenditures. So unlike unrestricted, we don't count those into our fund balance. So our unrestricted ending fund balance starts at about 14.3, and it's projected to decrease in the 2 out years. Overall, we are meeting our 3% minimum reserve for economic uncertainty. As you know, we are a basic aid district, and with 3%, that we always want to keep a higher reserve than what the state requires. That 3% is a minimum, and 3% is about 2 weeks worth of salary. So that gives you an idea of why we need to have more than the 3%. Our overall projected reserve is projected at a little over 27% for next year, and then you can see the decrease in the out years. Moving on to the next slide, we're looking at our general fund contributions to restricted programs. So restricted programs are programs where they're mandated programs, however, the funding is not sufficient. Therefore, we have to make a contribution from our general fund to support these programs. And 2 of the programs that I've shared with all of you are routine maintenance and special ed. And you can see here, just like the other budget reports, there's also a projected increase in our contribution to these 2 restricted programs, not only in the budget year, but the 2 subsequent years. Moving on to the next slide, our cash flow, we are projected to have positive monthly cash balances for next school year. We're projected to have a beginning cash balance of a little over 60 million, and then end the school year with about 15 million. When I was analyzing our cash flow, one of the things that I noticed is that we get our two big pots of money as a basic aid district in December and April. By the time we get to November, our cash flow is pretty low. So for example, this year, our November cash flow was slightly over 1 million. So we were under 2 million, which I am monitoring carefully throughout the year. Last school year, we were at a little over 4 million. So cash is king. Cash is money that we actually have in the bank to pay our bills, our invoices, salaries, benefits. So I will continue to closely monitor our cash. Next slide, please. And so today's information is presented as information, and I will bring this back next month for the board's adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vang. The public hearing for the 2024-2025 budget is now open at 7:49 p.m. Comments during this public hearing should be limited to the budget only. It is our goal to hear from all who wish to be heard. We now invite members of the audience to address the Board of Trustees on the 2024-2025 budget only. The hearing will stay open for a minimum of 1 minute. Thank you. The governing board has not received any comments or concerns. The public hearing is now closed at 7:50 p.m. Trustees, any questions about the 2024-25 budget?
Dr. Vang, I just wanted to revisit that last comment you made about cash flow. A little under 1 million last year, it was 4 million, and that you're monitoring it. So what do you mean by monitoring, and how low are you willing to let it go? What happens then?
So we have to monitor our monthly cash flow because you don't want to get into the negative. If we get into the negative, then I have to start borrowing from the other funds, for example, Fund 17 or Fund 20. And if there aren't sufficient funds there, then I have to do I have to borrow from, I have a couple of other options, such as borrowing from the county, taking out a TRAN, but these are things that, I need to be proactive about so that we don't get there. So throughout the school year, what I'm doing is I'm constantly pulling up a report that will show me, what my cash flow is currently, and then what it's projected to be. Also, the county also monitors our cash for us, so I get monthly reports from the county office. In terms of where we stand with our cash. So cash is constantly being reconciled both at the county office and at the district office level.
So I'm looking on, did you want to do it? Okay, same slide, okay. And trustees, I just wanted to let you know that I shared this with Dr. Vang as well, just my thoughts about, and I'm looking at the multi-year projection, and this is the projected reserve. 2024-25 is 27.12, 25, 26, 24, 39, and then 19.9% in 26, 27. So it's a decreasing fund. That balance is decreasing, and it's decreasing by 7.21% in the next couple of years. And I also understand that we are budgeting at 2%, so that changes the perspective a little bit as well. However, I just want to kind of give you a little bit of historical, story about our reserves. When I came on the board in 2010, we were probably at maybe 5% reserves at that time. It's fairly low, and our board at that time was very concerned about that we wanted to increase it. So that's why we have the two reserve pots type of thing, the 33%. So basically, it's taken us 12 years to get from where we were in 2012 to 2024 to get to where we're at right now, and now we're losing it really quickly. That's all I want to say. And so it's really concerning to me. It's very concerning to me. And if this is not correct, then please let me know. And this doesn't even include possible any of our facility needs.
No, it doesn't, because the expenditures do not include any facilities projects, since we have not, we're having a May 29th board study session, and once I get guidance, guidance from the board, then when I get to first interim, that will be added in if that's the case, and then you may see a projected even more of a decrease in our fund balance if that's the case. So yes, you're correct.
Thank you.
I also was going to ask a question about this slide, probably. So thank you for the history. I guess I don't know how this works as we go from May to June, but if I were asked to approve this, I would say no, because I don't like seeing 3 years of red. And I guess, I don't know, are we supposed to have conversations about, we want to be not in the red? Okay, because of, I'm thinking maintenance. So I don't know how this works in terms of all the budget assumptions. Is it everybody's request just thrown in and this is what it looks like? I don't know. Help me understand what happens. Because I guess I just precursor that I would say I don't feel comfortable with this.
Right.
If it were to come back in June.
Right, and keep in mind, the budget assumptions are assumptions that, are the best known information right now. Going back to the assumptions, though, also keep in mind that for the revenue, I'm only projecting a 2% increase. So until we actually get our J29 numbers and I plug those in when I close the books, you'll notice that our revenue, because we only have I'm only budgeting a 2% increase. Once that comes in and I get to first interim, that, you're going to see a revenue change up there for at least this year, correct? For 24, 25. The expenditures, by the time we get to first interim, I will also have a better idea of where we sit. So right now, these are the assumptions are the assumptions. These are the numbers that I currently have. A budget is just that. It's our best estimate of what monies we'll be getting, what expenses we'll have. And as that fluctuates throughout the year, I will make those adjustments at first and second interim, and then our actual numbers, right? By the time I close the books, we'll have a much better idea. As I've stated before, I'm conservative in our numbers because that is number one, what our county has recommended, that we are, we need to be conservative. So therefore, you only see the 2% revenue for property taxes. However, if you look at, for example, our P2 for this year compared to last year in terms of property taxes, that amount was actually at over 7%. That was the increase in our property taxes from 22-23 to 23-24, and we haven't gotten our annual yet. So these numbers are conservative numbers. If you recall, when I brought the second interim, our projected decrease, our net increase, decrease, I should say, was even higher. But then as we got closer and I updated our numbers because our numbers now reflect what's even more current, these numbers will fluctuate. So yes, they look scary up there with the net decrease. But it is the current information that I have with the budget at 2%.
So I guess I should also then take it a little bit further. I mean, we've seen red on here for a long time, I feel like, even for this year, and then it was, the revenues changed, but we have seen a precursor for red for a while, knowing that we're conservative. I guess what I also should probably state, just to make it known, is that I feel like we have, we have a lot of deferred maintenance. So that's very expensive. So I don't know how far property taxes will push the revenue in the other direction, but I would like to see the projected reserves increasing before we start to spend a lot of money for deferred maintenance. Sorry, I don't know if I'm getting my words mixed up now, but so that's my concern.
Trustee Moore, if I can interject, we have to always project 3 years of a budget. And we know that the out years are always going to shift and change, including the direction the board gives to staff around how do we reduce expenditures in those out years. Some districts reduce staffing, for example. Yeah, budget cuts do come up. We've talked about, retirement incentives, natural attrition of staff over time, because we do know that we are staffed at a high level based on the enrollment we have. So those are things to consider in the out years. Obviously, today, we're not going to make those changes because that window has passed for next year. But as you come together next year and you start talking about the out years, you will want to consider all those options in how to reduce your expenditures.
Thank you. And yeah, that was going to be my question for you is what are your suggestions? So I would appreciate some information in the future. And then Trustee Kerr, my question for you is beginning in 20, and we can have a conversation at another time if you don't have the answers right now, but beginning in 2010, when there was that concern and the board spent time increasing those reserves to what they are now, can you share with us what was done over time? What the district had to do to increase?
That's a good question. I think that it was.
And again, we can.
Well, you know what?
Okay.
Part of it was just because our property tax came in higher than what we expected. So many times that would happen as well.
Times, yeah.
So when there's excess property tax, we automatically just put them right straight into the reserve.
Okay, but my question would be, but then what had to, I don't want to say the word suffer, but what had, in order for us to take that money and put it right into where we wanted it, what did we have to consider? What other areas did we have to?
Well, we were always a district. Let me assume the right words. During my time, we've been very conservative as far as hiring our staff and things. So we never had like huge hiring years or anything by any means. We did do retirement incentives a couple of years in order to reduce some of the costs. And like I said, again, a lot of it was just because we had higher reserves, so we weren't paying out as much money. We weren't paying out as much, and most of that, just because of the formula, we weren't paying as much out into our salaries, and we were able to cushion it into our reserve account.
Okay.
That's what we were doing. But it takes many years, so it wasn't as if it was just like
Sure.
No,
it
one
takes
year we
time.
had a bunch of money type
Yeah.
of a thing. But I guess my point of what I was saying is like it takes a long time to save, and it's so easy to spend it, and we have to be really cautious about that. And that's just how it is at home too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that 33% of excess property taxes, is that not a policy? Is that a board policy, correct?
Yes.
That came out of a budget subcommittee, because I remember sitting on that. But to the point that you're making too, is when the concern about the budgets, the reserve at 2010, at that time, the district was also not paying for field trips in entirety. Those were still all parent supported. Parents, families were paying for AP fees. They were paying for PE uniform. I mean, there were all different expenses that the district took on to make things equitable for our students. But those come at a cost, right? So as you're spending more to serve our students, equitably and with opportunity, then obviously your expenses are increasing. So therefore you have less money to put into a pot of reserves. So this is the balancing magic of budgets of, we've now been able to be so fortunate to fund so many things for our students.
Right.
But at that,
At what cost?
At what cost? Is that the reserves, there's not as much money in the pot to put towards reserves.
And in my opinion, starting to take away things for students that have become the norm does not sit well with me.
No, and that would not.
So we'll have to get creative is what I'm saying. We have to look
exactly.
at other avenues to help grow our reserves again.
Yeah, exactly. All those kind of so much. If you would have seen budget assumptions from 10 years ago, even to where they are now, it is so student serving. That was
That's true.
than it was even 10 years ago. And that's direct feedback from stakeholders, from the board, from parents sitting in subcommittee meetings and like, why are, and we're, the AP testing fees is a perfect example. Like we're trying to level the playing field and make it equitable for all students. So you reduce that fee, but and I know that that's not millions of dollars of our budget, but I'm
but
just
it
using
adds
that.
up over time.
But yeah,
No,
but,
it's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah,
Really helpful.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us was like with the RLS track. That was the first time that we actually dipped into our reserves, is when we needed to pull some of it out of reserves in order to pay for the construction of that. So that kind of felt like it was the beginning of our reserve balance kind of decreasing at that point. And I'm not blaming it on RLS track at all. I'm not saying that. I'm just like saying that it was kind of that time when our reserve levels started going down, started decreasing, and President Pelosi was right, where we were all, as a board, we all said, we want to pay for our student fees. We want to pay for anything that we can pay for our students, so that our parents are not having to be responsible for that, to make it equitable for all. And there was also a time on our board where we did not even want to see a budget come to us with any red in it at all. We would basically say, take it back. We don't want to see red. So that was another kind of way we
can say that?
Well, I mean,
there was a couple of trustees that basically said, we don't want to see any red in the budget.
But I think in fairness to that, I mean, we have to wait before you say something like that. I mean,
Exactly. It's late right now to be saying
Yes.
something like that, and we have to also consider that we're only looking at a 2% increase and not, we kind of, our median is, our average is 4 to 5% a year, easily, as far as additional property tax. Does that sound right?
yeah, it does. I'd say that's a safe average to assume. And I think, as the budget's being developed and we go through first interim will obviously shed a lot of light on what the second interim and final budget will look like. But I think those are all worthwhile questions that you're asking. I mean, of course they are, because we have the huge responsibility of financial oversight. But I do think it is too late in the game for right now to just worry about for next year. But we'll keep it on the radar and thanks, Trustee Kerr, for monitoring that reserve.
Oh, you're welcome.
I
You're welcome.
appreciate
And thank
that.
you for listening to me too.
No, I know. I mean, it's important that is amplified for everybody's understanding. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Vang. Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so questions were there. We did all that. And this is just information. There's no action on that for this evening, so we're okay on that. Trustees, you comfortable? Ready to move on? Okay. Thank you. We're going to go on to 14B, which is review and consider approval of Resolution 23-29 to transfer $75,000 from Fund 40 to Fund 1. Dr. Vang, please.
Thank you. So right now in Fund 40, the high school ag program, there is a balance of a little over 290,000, and of that 290,000, the high school has requested that we shift some of those funds into Fund 01 to cover FFA travel expenses, large purchases, field trip fees, sub costs for the ag teachers, conference expenses for the ag department. So these are all ag expenses. And it's my understanding that the balance of 291,000 that's sitting in Fund 40, these were donated by the St. Helena Ag Boosters between maybe 2008, 2011 for ag expenses, projects, capital projects, and that's why they're sitting in Fund 40. Those projects have been completed and these funds have just been rolling over year to year. And so the high school has asked that based on their needs that an interfund transfer of $75,000 be made from Fund 40 into Fund 01. So that is the ask today.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Okay. Trustees, questions about this agenda item?
So I have just a quick question. So it sounds as though you're saying that the Ag Boosters funding is the balance is 291,000, and so transfer 75,000 of that to pay for some of these costs here. Got it. And then so for the greenhouse though, is that part of this 291,000 as well?
So if the board approves the interfund transfer of 75,000, then we'll subtract that from the balance to 291,000, and there's still over 200,000 that's still sitting in Fund 40. That will help cover the difference for the greenhouse project. Keep in mind the greenhouse project, there's a grant that's about 80,000. So anything above and over that 80,000 for soft costs, we can cover with Fund 40 dollars here.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you.
And I'm just curious, with the money that Ag Boosters saved from the recent Rib Fest, where does that money go to for them? Is that a separate fund or does that go into this Fund 40?
That is a separate fund. That does not go into this Fund 40. Once funds are deposited into the district's accounts, such as Fund 40 or Fund 01, you'll see those expenses come through us. Those actually sit separately at the high school. Charlene handles the high school ag funds. That would be separate from Fund 40 here.
And I should know this because I had an FFA student years ago, but what do they use most of their fundraising for then from like the Rib Fest? What activities do they use that money for?
I will defer to Principal Cento.
I can just say my daughter would be mortified that I'm asking this question.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
The money that FFA will raise during the Rib Fest, where does that funding go and what do they like to earmark those dollars for?
Oh man, it goes to a lot of different stuff. I mean, as you know, approximately 50% of our school participates in agriculture and FFA. So, I mean, it is, I would say, a huge portion of Charlene's job is dedicated to the agricultural department as well as athletics. I mean, and there's too many things to name. It goes to a lot of different stuff. So,
Well,
that didn't help you.
and also, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
Yeah,
Mr.
no.
Cento. Also, those students that what their project is, what they make from that project is theirs. So that don't really actually make a lot of money from the RIP fee. Yeah.
Correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 23-29 to transfer $75,000 from Fund 40 to Fund 1 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. 14C is contracts over $25,000 for May 2024. Dr. Vang, please.
All right, so the first contract is a renewal. It is the adult ed, and this is really just a pass-through funds for us. As you all know, we have Napa Valley Adult Ed that provides our adult education classes for our parents, and so this is an annual contract. The second one is for bridges. This is for the repairs at the Boys and Girls Club. I did include in here, however, this amount here, this expense will be covered by NBSIA because it is part of the redwood tree incident over at Boys and Girls Club that you all are well aware of. And then we have Greystone West. This is for the emergency gas pipe repairs at the elementary school, along with the Boys and Girls Club. And this is also coming out of NBSIA. And then the last two contracts are for Galileo, and I think we've discussed those two contracts. So these are my contracts over $25,000. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Okay. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? No?
I was actually curious if we typically spend that type of amount for summer school programming outside of costs of teachers. I was just curious. I like it. I'm not judging. I just was curious. I have no idea how we typically.
And I couldn't recall off the top of my head of what the amount is. I mean, so.
But it's showing general fund, but it's not, right? I mean, it's dollars we have to spend.
Right. So the big pot sits in general fund, but the funding is the funding resource is actually our ELOP dollars. So if you recall, our ELOP dollars are expanded learning opportunities programs. These are ongoing dollars that we have that are to be used for summer school to extend our instructional day and during the summer. So these are funds that we will be audited this year. This will be our first year that they're going to start auditing us. We get roughly over $400,000 every fiscal year, and if you don't spend it, it carries over. However, this year will be the first year where they will start taking funds back if you haven't spent them. This is, I believe, our second year that we have gone these funds, second or third year. So the funds prior to that, if they weren't spent, they'll be taking those. So it is critical that we spend these because these are set aside specifically for extended day, such as summer school programs. Yes.
And if we don't have 180 students, does the cost change? I'm just curious. I don't know what the target number of students is, so.
So we've adjusted as far as being able to look at how many students we would service. So no, we pay for the materials, they stay with us, and then we use them, and then we decide what we do after with them. So, but this is that innovative piece that just adding to what Dr. Vang said over the years as I've ran summer programs, the state is saying, we're giving you funds, do something creative. So that's what's coming. So to your answer, this is what we're ordering. We will use it, but we're also partnering with Boys and Girls Club, which is also servicing our students. So I can tell you if they're not used during summer programming, these project-based learning pieces can also be used during the school year, during our after-school programming piece. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah. So they'll be used.
Because I was thinking 180 students over the summer seems really high from what I've seen in the past. So I was just, so we would use it through the next school year. Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
No, it's ambitious, but it's summer camp, not summer school.
Rebranding.
And ELOP dollars, they're restricted to TK6, TK5?
TK6.
Six. Okay. 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 Unduplicated as well?
Yes.
Unduplicated. Okay.
Yes, majority of these funds need to be spent on our unduplicated kids. However, if other students participate, as long as majority of our student participation
That was my
is
next question.
unduplicated students, then we're fine. We just can't spend majority of the funds on students who are not within the unduplicated count.
Okay, okay, perfect, thank you.
It's a lot to keep track of, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And question? Okay. I know. Okay. Everybody's good? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the contracts over $25,000 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, you got that,
Yes, I
Erica?
did.
Okay. Ms. Magical will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Moram?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, so we're on to future agenda items. We've got quite a bit coming up here, board members. You can see the dates there for what we have, and the next regular board meeting is June 13th, which is after school is out, and we've celebrated all of our students moving on. What's that? It is a long list, but all worthwhile. So, and I don't know if the trustees have any. I don't even want to ask the question. I mean, if you have any subjects for future agenda items, they probably will be on August. But at this point, I would ask the question if there's something you want us to discuss, to put on the radar of the district staff here, because we do have a little bit to.
I just, it's nothing for the board meeting, but I don't know how or where to ask this, but if we could, similar to Carolyn, talking about changing up and creating some structure around the student representative, I wondered if for the Adopt a School report, that we could do something similar. If there's something that we should all be doing, and then throw in a wild card, whatever you want to report on, but
Yeah, I think
just to reimagine it a little
Right.
bit, because I struggle with what to share.
And
when I
maybe
do it
that's
every-
something we could talk about in August, I would think, right?
Yeah.
Because we usually have been trying to assign mix up the school assignments at the start of a school year. It made sense to stay with it for a whole entire school year
Yeah.
versus like doing it in December or
Of
something
course.
like that. So I would definitely be open for that discussion as well. So
Do we
let's
do that at a board meeting? Like, how does that work?
Well, let's see. How does that work? I mean, I think it can have a little discussion on what we envision here.
Okay.
And then I think it's a thing that that the staff would probably discuss with principals, because if we're coming onto their sites,
Right.
and what we envision, what we would like to report on, I would think that the site principals would have to, they would want to be in the loop on that conversation. to say,
absolutely.
So I think when we start this conversation in August, and I mean, as much as maybe we have precursor conversations on one-on-ones, that we can do that.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Because you are going to hire a new superintendent, which is an opportunity to do governance training again with
Yeah.
as a new group, and that might be a great opportunity to
Yeah.
discuss what this looks like in the future.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that just kind of jot down some ideas that you might have, and we will have to do like there will be an opportunity for board governance, our professional development, if you will, as well. So
Or a board retreat with the new superintendent, and that would be a great opportunity
that would be,
to sort of plan the year of what those things look like.
exactly. Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
I just have, since I'm not going to be at the next board meeting, I will provide a written report for the high school. I'll also review the agenda and send in any questions that I have
Okay,
to be
thank you.
answered. Yeah,
Okay, appreciate that.
absolutely.
And I think everything else is there. So June will be our last regular board meeting for the school year. We obviously do not meet in July. And I do think in the spirit of celebration and wrapping up the year, and in the spirit of aloha and mahalo, I think in June we should come to our board meeting in Hawaiian attire. to kind of keep things to kind of I don't mean come in your like bathing suits and flip flops, but
Why do I miss the dress? I live for these.
well, this is a commentary that's
President
been
Pelosi.
repeated, and I just think it'd be that we're capable of enjoying and celebrating the work that everybody does. So, I'm sorry, Laura.
I'm in.
I'll give you my pineapple glasses.
I would love those. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Do you need a vote?
Do I know? No, I just thought I would throw it out there for a little fun, a little lightheartedness. So with that, we've got plenty to look forward to in June. So is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Miss Magical will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf. Trustee Kerr.
Aye.
Trustee Mora.
Aye.
Trustee Simon.
Aye.
President Pelosi.
Aye. Motion carried. Meeting ended at 8:22 p.m.